From the beaches of Normandy comes the BMC Toys D-Day Invasion of Normandy playset. This expansive set comes from one of the most respectable toy companies in the world, featuring the allied powers of the US and UK as they battle the German defenders. My fellow commanders, let's recon. The packaging is loaded with images and information about the set and the history of the battle it represents, and includes special historical figures such as Theodore Roosevelt Jr., Erwin Rommel, Lord Lovat, and American Sergeant Harrison Summers. As we crack open the lid, we see the inside flap has even more information, mainly explaining the placement of the stickers for the set. With the topside view, we see everything arranged in its own individual baggie, and is tucked in nice and neat. BMC's big box sets always feature exceptional packaging. With everything laid out, we acquired confirmation that the set does in fact contain 114 pieces. We have a good distribution of stances, and I'm led to believe that they are assorted. You also see a huge amount of props, and one of the things I respect the most about BMC is that their vehicles and prop sizes are always near a scale comparable to the soldiers. The bunkers here are actually big bunkers, as opposed to some tiny paintball-looking bunker you get with a lot of other sets. As you can see here, we have a lot to get to, so let's move on to the inspection lineup. First up are the Americans. The level of detailing in these units is, I'll just say, below medium. It's not the best, but every mold is consistent. And what BMC does right with the American World War II infantry is that they've loaded them with plenty of gear. And with other sets, the Americans are really fighting lightweight, but with the BMC models, we see rucksacks and a lot of useful gear around their gun belts. The thing that leads me to believe these sets are assorted is the simple fact that you have hero figures, but also 2 mortarmen and 2 gunners, and each of them have a small support guy helping them out. And that's also true for the Germans, as we'll see in a moment. And we move on to the British Army, and we see Brigadier Lovat. I like to imagine him as a sort of Captain Price figure from the Call of Duty series, but this was a real individual, and I have a lot of respect for him. Now, the British forces are made up of only a 12-man squad, and there aren't too many offensive stances as you see here. Most are either observing or running around, but you see that they are carrying a good amount of gear. As we move on to the Germans, we see General Rommel looking onward. The gear is very familiar with MP40s, Mausers, canteens, and stick grenades, so you can see little pouches around the midsection there where the gun belt would be. Here again, here's the 2 mortar guys with their 2 support specialists. That means that this has to be assorted to some degree, as well as the machine gunners and their battle buddies. You see these 2 guys that just went by. I've seen these guys put on the flat guns, but it looks like they're being blown away by Allied firepower. And as we move around to the last 2 guys here, these guys are laying down on the job. Looks like they're admiring the sky. I like to put them up by the flat guns as they're easy targets. As I stated before, this isn't the best modeling that I've seen, and I have a lot of respect for BMC. I'm not putting BMC down, but when you compare it to other models, the other models stack up better, and they're for a cheaper price. And those helmets are just so awkward looking. Now, the one thing I want to point out here is not so much the gear as it is their stances. The stances of the BMC models are a bit more relaxed. They're very stiff in comparison, so we're going to take a closer look. For example, the British guy here, it looks like he's taking a peek. He's not necessarily in an offensive stance. As we take a look at the SCS soldier, he is looking down the sights, his feet are spread apart, he's taking an aggressive stance, and it looks like he is ready for battle. That same observation holds true for the American and German riflemen. You see the BMC riflemen, they kind of have this very stiff stance, kind of a nonchalant pose here. But when you look at the American here, the SCS models, their feet are spread out further and they're taking on a more aggressive stance. And we float on over to the Lcvp landing craft. These are the only two vehicles with the set, but the only two you need. They're a great size when compared to the soldiers and can easily accommodate 6 figures, although the real-life models were actually much larger in size and can carry up to 36 troops to shore. You've probably ridden in one on a video game, and you've most definitely seen them in the movies. Here we see gun hatches along the back, and as we take a look at the side, we see a diamond. Now, can anyone tell me what that diamond represents and what it's named? With the ramp down, we see ridges along the floor and on the sides as well. There are impressions for 2 life jackets on either side near the door. That's assuming you only need 2. You have a compartment for a driver and 1 crew member, and then up front here you can accommodate up to 6 soldiers. Now, the biggest question I had since I got this set, will it float? To answer that question, let's move on to the test pool. And we set the craft in aft first, and it floats. We give it a few nudges here to simulate waves. Now let's see how well it does when we start adding a few guys. We have it fully loaded, and it appears to be doing pretty well against the waves so far. Alright, let's intensify the waves. Alright, there's water coming in. Okay, so it looks like we're taking on water after we get some waves in. I recommend checking the weather forecast before liberating an entire continent. The side profile is very accurate to the real-life model. It's narrow down at the aft section, and it gets broader as you move up front. The ramp opens and closes easily, but you'll want to be careful with the hinges here. As you can see, they're pretty thin. A repeated opening and closing should be fine as long as you don't put a lot of stress on them. The ramp closes by snapping in place. Be advised, there are metal screws along the bottom. I thought I'd dry this unit out after the buoyancy test, but when I came back the next day, I noticed I had rust on the set of screws towards the aft section. What I determined was that water was trapped inside this small compartment right here, and you can see the bottom is hollowed out, so the water went straight towards the back, and I did not get it all out, so that's something you want to be mindful of. Water worries aside, this is a great looking model. This set has a vast assortment of props, and we begin with the 3 German bunkers with Flak 37 guns on top of each. What makes these bunkers so great is their size. They're big and can accommodate a lot of soldiers. You have 4 thin gun ports for riflemen to take advantage of. The sticker sets with each one feature a lot of stickers, and they can be arranged in any which way you choose. As you see here, they pass the clearance evaluation with standing riflemen. From this shot, you can see just how broad these bunkers are, and there's plenty of room to spare, even with 4 guys stacked up inside. Taking a look at the gun, we see that it can be rotated 360 degrees, and the barrel itself can be pivoted up and down, but only about 120 degrees or so, and you can never get it low enough to take aim at guys storming the bunker. So that leaves a little bit to be desired. Still, one can simply pretend that the barrels can drop that low and light up incoming enemy ground forces. The gun itself snaps into place with these 2 hinges here. When we take it off, you can see that there is a good amount of detailing, and you can even see texturing of the teeth of the gears that would help to rotate it. So very nice modeling. I like it a lot. The Bombed Outhouse. This is a very cool prop. 2 stories adds dimension to the battlefield as gunners can take up positions up high. With the roof off, we take a look inside and we can see that there are plenty of advantageous positions that shooters can take advantage of. The house features texturing on all sides as well as windows on all sides too. The roof merely sets in place. Take a look at it here. There is some slight detailing here. It looks like some very old weathered shingles. Of course, it's sitting next to the ocean, so that's to be expected. And it sets back on with ease here. The assembly is actually snap assembly, so it's fairly simple to put together. And if you want, you can take one of the walls completely off or put all four back together. So the second story floor here actually has 3 notches. There's 2 on this side and 1 on this side. And that can only go one way, so you're going to have guys that could be in the second floor but only on one side unless you make some sort of modification. And this set graces us with plenty of sandbag emplacements, 12 in all. These are great for your crouched units, but prone units can easily take full advantage of these. They feature good detailing and each model is consistent. There's detailing in these, and the way the bags sit, it looks like they are fully loaded, so these are some very nice models. We have 3 barbed wire fence pieces. These are very long, so you can arrange them in ways that can definitely present problems to advancing enemies. As you see here, they give the bunker and the house a wide swath of territory. The model itself is comprised of a slightly flexible plastic. The base is sturdy and stands well. It is perhaps better suited on a solid surface. You can see here that the barbed wire is slightly flexible and the posts are a little bit stiffer, but that's to be expected. We have a total of 12 dragon teeth. These were designed to prevent tanks from advancing. They provide a good amount of cover for prone and crouching units. The plastic features a slight texturing and is very rigid. I would have opted instead for maybe a gray color, as that was more indicative of the concrete that they were made out of. Here's a better look at the texture. You can see it a little bit easier when the light hits it a certain way. This plastic is very sturdy. We have 12 Czech Hedgehogs here. Now these are missing the cross section that helps them to stand up, so they basically all lie flat like a bunch of jumping jacks. But they offer a slight amount of protection here, so like the dragon teeth, these have a slight bit of texturing. You don't want to bend them too much, as these things might snap on you. The flags are some of the tallest I've ever seen. They stand high above the soldiers' heads. Now, one note, the American flag features 48 stars, which is historically accurate for the time. Then we have 4 mortars. These models are pretty generic in design and are meant for the 2 mortar teams on both the American and German sides. And the size is comparable to the figures themselves. And finally, the 3 rock formations. These provide excellent cover for your kneeling and prone units. They're comprised of a very stiff plastic, so basically almost like a rock. The little dip in the middle is perfect for the American gunner. Once again, this has been the BMC Toys D-Day Invasion of Normandy playset. This was a fun and exciting set to review, and if you found this review helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe, and as well consider supporting me on Patreon. We also have a follow-up video featuring the Sherman and Tiger tanks, and we'll have a link to that in the description below as soon as possible. For Call of Plastic, I'm Bill Greenwater. We'll see you soon.